Hello, everybody. This is Krunal Nayak, your host of our podcast, My Australian Journey. Today, we have a very special guest. I don't want to introduce him first, but yes, those migrants who are here in Australia and they want to build their wealth. Our guest will help all the migrants, all the people who are in Australia to build their wealth in Australia. So, I wanted to welcome Mr. Deepak Mehta from Sony Wealth. Hello, Mr. Deepak. How are you today?
Hi, Krunal. Good morning. I am
Morning.
doing really good. Yeah, it's a beautiful
That's
day out in Melbourne.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is fantastic. We are heading towards the weekends and one more day to go. Thank you very much for your time and to allocate for our audience. And I cannot appreciate, thank you enough for your valuable time today. So before we begin, I have a lot of questions listed for you. But before we begin, could you please introduce your business and yourself? Thank you.
Okay. My name is Deepak Mehta, and currently I'm part or associated with Sony Wealth. What we do is we really help people build wealth via investing in properties. And my journey has been very different from how I came across from India to here 15 years back. I had a lot of corporate experience, and what I do now is very different to what I used to do. So let's start with a small bit of introduction, and then I'll
Yes,
wait for your questions and then accordingly describe it a bit further.
no worries. All good. So you just mentioned that you've been here in Australia for 15 years. Wow. Right. And most of the corporate careers, and now you're with Sony Wealth. Okay. So could you please, first question I have is that um, people are, a lot of people in today's society are not, yes, everybody wants to be rich, everybody wants to be wealthy, but they do not know how to get help from other people. People say, like, I'm from Gujarat and I see a lot of Gujaratis, like, why the hell do I need someone to build my wealth? You know? So could you
Yeah.
please focus on that, like how it works and how people need help? Thank you.
Okay. So I'll try and give it with an example because I've come from corporate experience. I worked with companies like Infosys and Telstra, and now I moved into something totally different. I'm just going to give an example what we go through. So a lot of people who might listen to this podcast, I'm assuming most of them would be immigrants, and a lot of immigrants who come to Australia from India or other places are primarily working in, say, IT related jobs as well.
Yeah.
So, a very simple example, what I'm going to give is just think of it when you are working for a company, most people company working in IT companies then get allocated to different other companies or working in consulting gets allocated to other companies.
Hmm.
And the daily rates what get the company charges for their skills and their experience is pretty good if you really think about it. Why do other companies hire you to be able to do your work? They are essentially paying you a daily rate based on your skills and the expertise that you are able to offer.
Right.
And I think when we are thinking about building wealth, it's essentially very similar. What you need to do is you need to find people in the industry who have been able to help a lot of other people, and they are essentially going to, you just need to um, pay for their time and effort and the skill they are offering. And if you
Mhm.
come up with that particular mindset, I think things become a lot easy. And I'll share from my own personal experience. When I started doing this thing myself, I tried to do everything on my own.
Mm.
That's how we all believe we are probably smart enough. A lot of information is available on online channel these days.
Right.
If other people can do it, why can't I spend my time on research and do it myself? And I think that's what I started with on my own personal journey as well. But I think I realized pretty quickly what I was able to do in the first 60 years, and which did all by myself. And
Yeah.
when I got associated with someone and took some professional help, I actually got myself wealth or a property mentor who helped me then accelerate what I had done in my first 6 years, probably help me to do that within the next 1 or 2 years, just replicate or multiply that as well. And when
Right.
I went through that experience, I think that changed a lot of things for me. And as I said, it's not just in the matter of, say, building wealth. There are other aspects of life as well. Again, a very simple example what we give: if you're feeling sick, you know the symptoms, you might even know what medicine to take, but you'll probably go to a doctor to be sure, because you know they are qualified. They look it into what are your symptoms are and give you the right medicine. I think it's essentially very similar in this case, where you take some professional help and things can actually work much faster. You can learn from other people's mistakes rather than using or doing your own mistakes.
Doing their own. Correct. That's great. Good insight, Deepak. Thank you so much for that. Um, so next question we have is, okay. So someone let's talk about Sony Wealth first. What's your role in Sony Wealth?
Okay. So I work as a wealth coach here, and what we try and do as part of this organization is we sit down with people, we really understand their full situation, which includes two key things. One, we really need to understand their goals and objectives. What are they trying to do in their life? What are their upcoming milestones? What do they want to achieve? And this is very important. And when I sit with a lot of people, especially most of the migrant community, a lot of people have wishes but they don't have goals, and essentially written down proper targets what they want to achieve in the next 5 to 10 years. So that's one thing we try and help them with. The second
Right.
key thing is we try and really understand their financial situation, which includes their assets, their income, their liabilities. And that gives us a perspective what they want to achieve in life and where they are at this point in time. That's our starting point. What we then do is we start to educate them on how, using real estate or properties, they can build long-term wealth for themselves. And again, a lot of people do feel property or real estate is something everyone knows about, everyone wants to talk about, but how to really make it work for you is you need a lot more education and experience to be able to learn that. So we try and explain and educate and help people inspire on those things by sharing some success stories similar to their profile. We educate them on what has happened in Australia, why people really invest in Australia, what are the advantages you get. So that's our next phase. And phase three is where we really look at, based on the information we collect from their financial and goals and objectives, we help them build a long term plan, which is a 5 to 30-year plan in terms of how, based on their financial objectives, how they can use property investment as a mechanism to be able to build long-term wealth. And that includes a lot of details in terms of numbers, forecast, cash flow, and other things. This is step number three. This is, I think, the most important aspect when we sit with people to have the roadmap or a strategy defined and have an in principle agreement if they want to take on this journey and take on this particular roadmap. And if that becomes yes, and they are excited about moving on that roadmap, and then we help them really execute that in terms of then finding the right investment options, helping everything to be able to secure those, settle those, help finance those. And then once those properties are settled, we also help them property manage or finding tenants for that as well. So we try and do everything under one umbrella, and it makes it much easier for people to replicate that and build up volume. Yeah, they're able to scale up pretty quickly in a matter of couple of years. So that just becomes a lot more easier for them to do it, and they can really focus on what they're really good at.
Good. Excellent. Only one question, which you just mentioned. on principle agreement. What is the on principle agreement?
No, on principle agreement is it's essentially when we work through their strategy and roadmap, we try and show them couple of ways to go about it. Because I'll give you again very simple example. When we meet people from different phases of their life, sometimes one of their objectives is to upgrade their home in couple of years. Okay, a lot of people would come who are really happy to move around a bit and even stay on rent, but they want to start to build assets for themselves. So everyone has a different direction they want to take, and what we do is, as part of it, while exploring all the options with them, we try and give them a couple of options what direction they want to take. And that's very, very important in terms of to be able to narrow down onto what direction or path they want to take. Because when you start executing, you need to have that very clear in your mind what you're trying to execute. And as I said, a lot of times when we meet people, that clarity is not there. And we help them really define that, giving them the vision. Okay, there is a possibility in there, and then you need to believe in that possibility before we execute that.
Hmm. Hmm. I think even like scrolling these YouTube videos, they scroll these sort of videos, then they might get this at least basic knowledge, because if you're not writing down your goals, like at least 10 goals in your life, you can't write it down. And I see my clients as well. I said, okay, what's your goal? They are blank. They don't have
Yeah.
any answer. Like what's their goals are. So yes, like goal clarity is basically important. Okay. So see, we are having a good migrant community in Australia, and the kids are get growing up as well. So in future some kids might have so let's say we are the first generation here, we are buying
Yeah.
houses, and we're first investment property, second investment property. Maybe not everyone can go on that track, they just might pay off their first home, and that's it. They will carry on to the kids. And but the kids, when the kids grow up, and they might choose, as you just said, that some might choose to build property portfolio, some might choose to travel and not buying their own property and they're just renting. So in your opinion, what is better? Is it better to rent and build wealth, or buy
Oh,
and build wealth?
okay, very interesting question. I think it comes down to your personal choices.
No, 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 no.
I'm going to
It
give you a
is.
very simple example. Yeah, I'll give you a very simple
Yes,
example
please.
with my own family. Okay,
Great, great.
I went on a journey when I came here. Stayed in like a typical migrant. Came here, stayed in and around CBD for first couple of years while finding a feet in a career as well, and finding a feet in the country as well. And
Yes,
then family started to grow. Had a kid. Then we needed more space. Decided to move on to suburbs. Bought the first property where most of the friends were staying. Yeah, so a very typical story
yes.
what most people would end up doing.
Doing correct.
And once I we identified the suburb where we want to live, bought a property there, did our own home, and then I started on my investment path. So I started investing into properties after that. So
Great.
that's probably, I would say, very typical of what most migrants would do. And I see that when I meet a lot of people these days, this is a very typical story that comes across.
Hmm.
Now I'll give an example of my brother. He's 2 years younger than me. He came a couple of years after me to this country. He was very clear in his mind. He wanted to explore a bit more. He didn't want to get tied up to one location and put all his money in on one asset at the start. So he went on a different path where while he was exploring his career options, he was also exploring cities. He was moving between Melbourne and Sydney, wasn't sure where he wants to settle down.
Mhm.
He continued to rent until date. He's been renting,
Wow.
but he has got a multiple property portfolio in Melbourne as well. So, and he's probably now at a situation where he started to think to settle down a bit further. Now he's got a family, kid as well. So he's at a stage where he's thinking seriously now to be able to buy something on your own. But
Hmm.
he is in a good position because he did not waste those 8 or 10 years while he was traveling or trying to find his feet. He was still building assets for himself. And now he is in a position to be able to either do anything with those assets, he can dispose it off, take the money on those, and then use it for your own home. So, as I said, um, it's I went on one path, he went on slightly different path, and
Right.
both
Both
are
are
right
successful.
from your own personal perspective.
Correct.
And so it doesn't it really depends on your personal priorities, what is more important for you in life.
Mm.
And that is why you're having your goals and aspirations really clarified, really helps them decide what path you want to take.
Right. Perfect. So before this, let's say when you started this wealth management, what was your career before? So now we're just trying to get into another phase, or your
Okay.
migration phase. I'll ask you the questions
Yeah.
about it. So let's get started with this. So you are in wealth building now, but what was your career before?
Okay. It was very interesting. Again, very like a typical migrant. So I was born and brought up in Delhi, India. Did most or almost all my entire schooling in Delhi.
Hmm.
Then I went to Maharashtra, Nagpur to do my engineering.
Wow.
Again, a typical boy in 2000 was most of the parents choosing a career.
No, no, if you're doing
Finished
something exceptional, you must be an engineer. That's
So, finished my engineering, and after that did MBA from
Mhm.
Symbiosis Pune. So again, very typical journey, engineering,
Yeah.
MBA, what most people were doing in the decade of 2000, 2010. Um, and then I started my career in India. I joined Infosys in Pune, and I was lucky enough that within first couple of months, I got an opportunity to travel, and I was allocated to a project in Australia with Telstra.
Oh,
And that probably changed the entire course of my life from that point
right,
onward. So
right,
I came to Australia in 2008. Again, very typical. I came here as a IT business analyst in
right.
2008, landed in Melbourne, first time, one of the first people in my whole family to come out on travel outside of India.
Right, right.
Um, I had not traveled. I had traveled to probably just for a couple of days in another country like Singapore just prior to traveling to Melbourne. So this was my second country ever to travel. So came in a totally different new
New world?
country, totally
Yeah.
different culture. And again, you know, we only heard when we were back in India, Australia was something we only associated with two things. Probably the cricket team. We always used to see cricket matches at that time, and the only other thing that used to be in our books was kangaroo. Those
Yes,
are the two
that's
teams
the thing.
we.
If you came, if you are 2008 kid, then salam namaste.
Salam namaste. Yes, yeah, and the small. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a reason for like many people around me who came in that era. Like I arrived in 2007, so who came around 2006, seven. It was that was inspiration. The movie was.
That was, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I still remember the small car Saif Ali Khan was driving in there and the radio host. So, yeah, that was something part of our memory book.
Correct.
So, yeah, that's what my initial story was. I came here 2008.
What visa you came in on the
I came in on a work visa directly.
work visa? 457, right? At that point, maybe.
457. At that time, it was 457. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent.
So yeah, settled down here. Luckily, obviously, when I came here, I already had a job because I came on a work visa.
Visa, right?
Started to settle down. Very interesting memories that come with that as well. Again, I've
So you
come
landed in
from.
Melbourne at first, or
I
somewhere
landed
else?
in Melbourne.
And you're still in
I
Melbourne.
stayed put, and yeah, so last 15
Okay.
years in Melbourne.
Right. Okay.
Uh,
I got a question. Why Melbourne first? So because the job, yes, you got into work, and your employer put you in here, right? So, but after that, never had a chance to move the city, or you just fall in love with Melbourne.
Now, once I was here, I spent a year and a half, 2 years here. I think I was sold on Melbourne, got settled down. I know people still talk about a bit on the weather side of it, but I'm from the northern part of India, so we've seen a bit of cold there as well.
Yeah, pretty similar.
And the real lifestyle here. Plus, we were able to quickly gel in within the culture. Plus, were able to build friendships, professional friendships, personal friendships as well. And then, yeah, never looked back from that point onwards. And I think, yeah, I'm probably reaching a stage where I've spent more time in one particular city in Melbourne than any place else. Yeah, yeah, probably first 17, 18 years I was in Delhi while I was doing my schooling. And since then I have been traveling. So this is my home now. Yeah.
Perfect. Perfect. I'm loving it. Great. All right. So next question is, let's say if someone is moving, like when you first moved to Australia, what was you just mentioned, but what was your first impression? Like, okay, the things we know, but other than that, okay, work wise, have you worked in India as well? So you know there will be some work culture differences, some other differences that you might face. So, what was your first impression for work side of Australia, and how it turned out? Is it turned out well, or not satisfied?
Yeah, very, very different. The way you work back in India versus when you come here, the culturally and professionally, it is quite different here. Again, I'm going to share probably what I felt when I came at the start, 2008,
Yeah,
and things might be totally different at this point in time. I think a lot of things have shifted
same, same.
overall. When I came here, I think first, before even I talk professionally, the first thing I think most people notice is I landed late at night, came here to the service apartment at probably 8:30, 9 p.m. at night, and streets were empty. I landed in, came to South Yara at the start. Yeah. So
Mm,
again, we've come from a place where after 7 p.m. back there, people start to finish their work, and then it is the time to go out, and you find a lot of people out there. Whereas we came, yeah, everything was like deserted at that point in time, 8:39 p.m. at night. So that was a bit of a initial change or a shock, but you
mm,
get adjusted. Yeah,
yes,
and over a period of time, you really start to like it as well. Yeah, so that was the first set of change. But I think professionally, um, it takes time to really understand the culture, the company culture. It works a bit more differently here. I think one, being migrants, again, when I came in 2008 9, luckily I came from a company which was full of people like me, similar background, Indian background, who had settled. So I think I was lucky in a sense that I was able to associate or connect with people who had been in the country, who had very similar background to me, who had been in the country for a few months or years. So, if I talk about professionally as well, the culture here is a bit more different. When I came here,
all right. Can you explain like what difference you feel at first culture? Oh my God. Okay, I don't see there. You from Delhi, so Delhi is like from India. It's one of the top city, and you see a lot of things in Delhi which you don't see in the rural India,
yeah,
right? But still, you feel the difference. Tell us about it. Like, what
one
was the
simple
difference?
one for to start with is the timings. Yeah, so the way we work back in India was very different. You start a bit late, keep on going till late in the evening as well, and that's just the culture part of it. You come in and settle down, whereas when you come here, you see the timings are quite different. People are specific to come early in the morning and finish up probably at time 5:30 and corporate, because they value their life. They have things to do outside of your work, and that's something they are really passionate about. Whereas I never used to see that back in India. It was all about work, probably come back home. Yeah,
Yeah.
it all your once you start working, all your life was surrounded by that. Whereas one of the things I noticed here, especially not directly when I was say working with Infosys. When I moved over to Telstra and started to work with a lot of local people, um, I started to realize they had passions outside of work, which they really strongly believed in, and
Mhm.
devoted time to follow it. So they had the meaning for their life as well. It was not just about work and ambitious to grow. They had things outside of that, which they strongly wanted to follow and spend time on. And that's something I realized, which was a good part there, to be able to have, yeah, things or hobbies outside to do. And they were very particular about it. A lot of people I saw so disciplined. They'll start their work early in the morning, like 7 a.m., finish it up at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, go a bit early and do other things that they want to do. So those are small subtle things. Start with the other key change. I think I noticed a lot about, especially at that time. Again, I'm talking 10 years back. Um, the
Yeah.
most important thing for an organization was its people. They valued people a lot more, and I learned it through the right or the hard way when I moved into a people management role a couple of years in this country. And then I think I started to realize a lot more that there's a lot of onus on people issues, their own personal challenges, what they're going through. So you have to be factoring in that as part of work. Again, one very good example that comes to my mind is when I was working at Telstra. I used to see, um, when I moved into people management role, people say, for example, want to take leave. Yeah. So again, it was always the concept in my mind was, when someone is asking for leave, or when you have to take leave, you have to really focus on what is the work that is upcoming. Is it the right time to take the leave or not? If you're going away, how would the work happen? So you have to be mindful about a lot of that stuff. But while my time working at Telstra, one thing I realized, or one of my mentors there taught me, was the culture is around, if you have to take leave, you just give enough notice for a month or two, but you take leave. It's an organization's role to find the backup and how it would manage the work while you are away. So it's not your prerogative that, okay, you will take leave only when um, it is the right
The
time from
organization
an
is
yeah,
complete.
work perspective. It's not that. You have to think from that perspective. You are taking leave for your own personal reasons, whether you want to go on a holiday or do the other things. It's an organization who needs to then start to think, okay, while you are away for a period of time, how do they manage the work? So it was a very different way of thinking about it. And yeah, once you
Yeah.
understand that, then it becomes easy. But that's yeah, some of the
That's strange. Yes. Yeah, it is. First time it's really hard, and I understand. Great, thank you. It's very insightful for those who are new migrants coming, trying to get into Australia. That will be a great learning for them. These things to understand. Excellent. Thank you, Deepak, for that. You just mentioned a mentor, career, your mentor in your industry. So could you please focus on that? What is the importance of having a mentor?
I think that's something that can help a lot of people. One thing which has helped me in my professional career, personal career as well, is always not shying away from asking for help. It helps a lot. And having professional mentors in all areas of your life, whatever you want to do, can really change the trajectory of your career and professional life. So while I was working in my within Infosys or Telstra at that point in time, I always ensured I have senior people in there who I can count back on and who can mentor me. Because you go through a lot of different challenges in your professional careers as well. It's not just about career growth. Sometimes you are in a phase where you're having really difficult times with a particular project or in a particular role. So it always helps to have a third person in there to be able to test out or soundboard your challenges against them, and they can really help you navigate how to come out as a better person. And that had always helped me in my professional career. And I was doing really, really well in my professional career as well. Like for a period of 6, 7 years, I continuously used to get a lot more opportunities to be able to perform higher roles, and I think mentorship was something that really helped me, and that is why I never shy away from the fact that even outside of work, if I have to get something done, I would always look for, say, someone who has already done that in a much better way. So rather than me spending all the time, you use a professional person, and you are able to fast track a lot of things rather than doing everything yourself and learning yourself. And that's what has continued, as I gave you an example on my personal investment journey as well. Taking help, professional help, always works a lot better. So one of the advice I would probably give all people as well in their professional careers, if they're looking to grow their career, always find people who you can look up to, people who are much senior than you, who have achieved where you want to go, and reach out to them. And I'm sure more than 90 95% of those people would be willing to help you. You're just asking for an hour of their time, maybe once a month or once a quarter. Always associate yourself with senior people in the organization, because the golden nuggets that they'll give you in an hour will really help you in your professional life. Yeah.
You're right, absolutely. So, someone I'm mentoring someone. I'll just give an example that they're kids. They're in their twenties, still in their twenties, and they just came up to me and said, "Okay." They just called me brother and says, "Can you please guide me?" And I said, "Okay, I'll guide you from my experience and whatever I have." So I started guiding them. It was my first mentorship to someone, and you wouldn't believe that they're just trying to get buy an apartment. And I said, okay, if you just got residency, just do this. And then they started following my path, and within a short span of time, within 5 years, they had three
Yeah.
properties.
Mm.
One in a city, one in a somewhere in the southeast, and one in a Williams Landing. And Williams Landing, the third property, was quite huge. So it helps you. And if they accepted that if we would have done by ourselves, we don't know how it works. So guiding and mentorship, it's quite important. So yes, find the right mentor, whoever you get
Yeah.
connected with.
Well,
So if you feel safe with someone, comfortable with someone, then yes, go for it. And
yeah,
yeah,
you,
that might be
wherever your value system aligns, yeah, you should always be able to find. And again,
that's
I'll
it.
give one more. I want to just build upon this particular point,
Yeah.
because I work with majority of people from similar background, migrants who have settled here, who want to do well. Their traits are the value system we come with is very, very strong. If you want to do well in this country, most people who come from migrant backgrounds are really hardworking. We don't shy away from hard work. Second, most people have a mentality of savings. They don't spend everything. They are not spendthrift, so they are able to save some money, and they always want to do better for future generations, for their kids, for the next generation coming up. So these two or three traits are common amongst most people who come from our background, and these
Background.
are really important traits to be able to do really well in this country, because if you have these traits, you just need a holding hand, someone who can guide you, and you can really do a lot better for yourself, and fast track a lot of your journey. And that's as I said, your building base or block is already there from mental perspective. It's just if you can get the right help, people who can you can associate it with well, who can match to your value system, and they can help you fast track a lot of things that if you try and do it yourself, it will take a lot more time.
Take a lot of time. Yes, correct. Just on this note, a question arises that, let's say when someone wants to consider a mentor for wealth management, not for career, for the wealth management, what is the point that they should start?
I'll just reach out to who you can connect, who you can associate a bit better.
No, no. What time? Let's say when they have like
Okay.
buying first property, buying investment property. What should be the right
No, I
time to
don't think
get
it
connected?
matters whether you think you are ready or not, because a lot of times you might feel I'm way behind to be able to invest or do something. But sometimes when we look at people's profile, they are ready now rather than wait. They have been thinking they might be ready in 2 years' time, but a lot of people are actually ready. And even if it is not ready, I'll again give an example. We get people sometimes who are very ambitious but who don't have money. Yeah. So we sit with them, look at their profile. Just giving an example of a person who came to us who did not have a lot of savings in there, but he was very determined that he wants to progress in life and do things. We knew probably he cannot do something immediately, but we gave him a goal to be disciplined and save a certain amount of money each month. And that would enable him to be able to enter the market, say, in 8 to 9 months. And he was very determined and disciplined. He drove a very cheap car. He did not spend on that, but he started to save money. And instead of 9 month goal, he was able to achieve that in say 6 months, and then being able to
Wow.
then be ready to be able to do things. So it's not about, if you feel something is too far away, you can always start to get some education. You may not be able to hit your target in 2 years or 3 years, but if you start to educate yourself and build your knowledge, you might be able to do that in 1 year or even less. So um, I think sometimes people are too scared, or they think they are not capable to be able to do. But there is no harm
Yeah.
in just reaching out to few people and testing it out. At worst, what is going to happen, even they're going to validate their point and say, okay, you may not be ready at this point in time, you need some more time, but they can still give you some guiding directions as to, okay, to be able to fast track, then you need to do these 2 or 3 things, and if you're disciplined enough, you'll hit your goals much earlier.
Perfect. It's, I think, setting up a goal and having discipline. That's the key to success here, right? Sorry. Okay, moving back to our Australian journey. So tell me about it. That what you love or like the most about Australia.
um Again, I think I'll build upon the point which I was making before. It's I came back from a background where both my parents were working in government service. Yeah, so we never had, say, a lot of money. Me, my younger brother, my parents, for 20 years we grew up in a one bedroom apartment in Delhi. So things were tight and very different. Um, and probably some of that I see that rubs off on a lot of people because they try to limit their potential and their dreams become smaller. And then they don't end up really achieving or exploring their potential. I think one thing, when I came to Australia, then you start to really realize that there is so much to do in life. It is not just about earning money, not just about paying your bills. There are so many other things that you can do in your life, and then that is one thing. The other thing you realize here is, um, again, back in India, if you start your career, you get kind of typecast in one profession. What you have been doing, very highly likely you will just continue to grow and do the same thing or the same profile. The other thing I noticed in Australia, when even I was working at Telstra, I used to see people every couple of years, they'll just totally change what they have been doing in their career. Someone working in IT just moved over to, say, HR. Someone working in HR moved over to marketing. Someone working in legal totally
Right.
came to operations. And I think that really,
Someone working in pharmacy
yeah,
to migration.
yeah, it's not what you have studied about or what your educational degree is. There are things to explore. You can do things, you can continue to explore different things into really before you find your passion. And I think
Mm.
that opened up my eyes a lot. It was not about, okay, what I'm doing, I just cannot do anything else. Who else will give me, hire me, or who will else will give me a role if I have all the experiences in IT or project management or program management? But I think that that's something I learned, that it's not, it's just your mindset which is limiting you. If you want to do something different, especially in this country, there are means and mechanisms available, and if you spend your time and energy into it, you'll be able to do much better for yourself.
Excellent, excellent. No, but the way you explained it, the way you saying that, okay, this should be the way to go ahead for certain careers in Australia. Career switch is okay. Career switch everybody do, and that's not a big part of that. But still, having a right direction, having a right goal, having a right atmosphere, or let's say we can say the what the word they use I miss, but yes, maybe the environment around you that might work well. And yes, excellent, you have done remarkable progress in your career, and congratulations for that. So let's say when you came here in Australia as a migrant, you got a job, you, and so from the day you arrived in Australia to the day you get your residency, or citizenship, how long that did that take for you?
Okay. Again, an interesting journey I'm going to share on this side as well. I
Okay.
came
Right.
2008, as I mentioned previously, on a work visa. So I worked here for a year and a half, and then we were about to have our first kid, okay, in
Mhm.
2009. And we decided, me and my wife decided, we did not have any other help here. So we were the first people to come out of our families outside somewhere else.
Right.
We decided we are not sure what's going to happen after the kid. So let's probably go back. So we actually packed up our bags
Oh.
and went back to India. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, so
really?
that was in 2009. Okay. And we had a kid there. Because I was part of the company on work visa, I was easily able to go back, um, continued to work there. And then I think in spending 6 months there, we realized the life we have experienced here is very different back there, especially from a work culture perspective. And it was becoming a bit more difficult for us. So when my wife started work pretty quickly after the kid, 6 months after that, and then she realized, okay, again, the work starts late. By the time she comes home, it finishes late. She goes to office in the morning, the kid is sleeping. By the time she's coming back, the kid is sleeping. So there wasn't a lot of time she was able to spend with the child as well. And with traffic and everything else, we felt, I think, what we had experienced in the last year and a half would be was much better. And then we decided to come back here. But I think that that was a point where we were very clear in our mind. Now, this is the country we will settle in, because we had got that experience first staying here, then going back and
Mm.
being able to compare about that this is where we want to settle in. And I think from that point onwards, we decided, okay, it was 2010, that this is a place where we are going to stay. And having the right, say, educational degrees and work visa, it was then probably straightforward at that point in time to be able to apply for permanent residency. Straight away as we came back, applied for it. And it might have taken, I think, 6 to 12 months to be able to achieve that. So, roughly
Yeah.
2012, I would have received my permanent residency. I think late 2011, early 2012 is what I would have received it. And yeah, another 2 years after that, citizenship came in as well.
Right. So perfect. That's a perfect migration journey, I would say. How long did you stay in India for a while?
I think around
The
eight
Indian
to
exit.
10 months in between when we
Eight to
went
10.
there. I came in a bit earlier because I had the opportunity to come in again. As soon as I got it, I came back, and then my wife and kid joined probably a couple of months later, once I was able to find the right house and everything. Yeah.
Great. So the permanent residency from 457 to these, was that company sponsored or you become a
It,
permanent resident by
no, it
your own?
wasn't company sponsored. It was all by my own, so I had to do all the
Yeah,
application separately. Yeah, yeah. So still had to go through the
excellent,
proper
excellent.
process, doing IELTS and everything else. It was a point system back then as well. Yeah. So
Really?
when went all on independent way rather than being sponsored by the company.
Did you go in that old point system, 120, or you go into the new point system, the
I
65
think
one?
it was 65 one. Yeah, yeah.
65 one, right. You must be the new cohort
Yeah,
getting
just
impacted by
brand
the
new
new
cohort.
system
Yeah.
because yes, until 2011 it was the old system, but then in no in 10 I think the new system was introduced around that
Yeah, it
time. So
was
yes, you
close,
should be the
close to that
first
point.
one.
Yeah, yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
And I think at that time, age was on my side, late 20s. So
Yes.
everything,
All boxes are ticked.
all things were- I did have to go through the skill assessment part as well. Um, so the role I was playing at that point in time were identified as one of the skills needed in the country. So did the skill assessment, and then IELTS did that. So all of that fell into place.
All the same thing or what people are doing today. Did you hire a migration agent or you did it by yourself?
The first one I did it myself. Then, as I said, I got a lot of this learning to have professional help later. But if someone asked me to do it now, I would go straight away and take some help. It'll fast track a lot of those things. Yeah, getting that professional help does help. So, say for example, now
Professional.
I'm trying to get my mother migrated here as well because my brother is here as well. So now at this point in time, I'm taking say professional help. Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm. Because that's a struggle for us, for migration agents. We do charge a little, not a little, but reasonable charges, but still people are quite hesitant to pay for migration because they feel like, okay, it's like what the agents do and all that. But still, I would say that other things you might take risk doing by yourself, but this is legalities, so this is a legal process. So legal help should be a great help, but that's anyways, that's out of the question. So okay, tell me about this. Next question. What would you advise to the migrants, new incoming migrants, whoever's coming on a student visa or migrating to Australia directly from offshore? What's your advice to them?
um, it's a great country. Okay,
Yeah.
and everyone finds their way. Okay, so I've seen enough because enough examples of different people. So when I was migrated the first 6 years, I used to probably help a lot of other people as well. They hear about it. Okay, you've gone there and settled there. So I was helping a lot of other people, same from my professional career or my family network, friends who wanted to migrate and come over. And I've seen a lot of examples in there. When you come here, there are people who are probably who get lucky, who can even get a job in 2 weeks or 3 weeks and straight away move on. But I've found people who have taken a lot more time. It has taken them, say, 3 to 6 months to be able to find the right role or relevant job as well. And I have even seen people who've taken a permanent residency, came here, did not find something in 3 months, and they decided to go back. So I think the only advice I'll say is give yourself a bit more time in there. I think it's just a matter of time. You will be able to find something for yourself, and once you find something, it's a great country. You can rebuild your life pretty quickly. It can happen in a matter of 6 to 12 months. Even if you end up using a lot of your savings, you can easily recover a lot of that. It's a matter of spending or giving it enough time. That's one. The second key thing I would say is Australia is a small country. We've got very limited population. It is really going to help if you know the right people in there. So whether you have come here recently or you have spent 5 years or 10 years in Australia, one thing I'll always tell people is continue to network, continue to build the people you know, and don't do it when you need them. This has to be an ongoing and continuous activity, because the more people you know, the more opportunities will come out for you. So that's, I think, one of the small advice I would give to everyone. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. It's super valuable advice. Yes, and if someone followed these a small bit, but still it's worth $1 million, I would say. Like thank you for that. It's excellent. So this is now the question which I ask all of my guests. So which is related to immigration. So let's say if you become an immigration minister in future, or you have a power to change something in current immigration system, what changes would you like to bring in that system?
Okay,
Being a
this is
migrant.
a tricky one. This is a tricky one. Because frankly speaking, like as I said, I've got my citizenship 2014. It's been a while. So I really don't know what kind of challenges people are facing at the moment from an immigration perspective. I think Australia has been pretty good if you look at it. We do get people from all facets of life coming in here, and that's the beauty about being staying in Australia. People from so many varied backgrounds and countries coming and settling here. um, from an immigration.
So I'm asking if see okay, I'll let's switch my question a little bit. So anything, let's say not just a permanent residency, let's say parent visas, let's say
Yeah.
refugee visas, let's say other visas, anything 457, like now 457 doesn't exist, it's become 482, and the income has changed, like let's say from 53,000 should be the minimum income at that point, now it becomes 70,000,
Okay.
which is like unaffordable for the employers,
Correct.
so that sort of changes are so any like when you applying for your parents migration,
Yeah,
anything
that's
you
that's
would
something I think
suggest.
of very bit fresh in memory, because I put my, say, mom's application for a contributory parent visa in 2017. So still waiting for that to be approved, although it costs a decent amount of money. So you
There you go.
visa.
You're in the same boat.
So been lucky enough to be in a position to be able to afford it, but I would understand a lot of people may not be. So probably there can be a little bit more easier path for you to have your family back here, because understandably we come here leaving everyone behind. So there are strong ties. You would want to have your parents and say some other extended family come here. So some of the rules can be a bit more relaxed, although I do understand from their position as well that um, if someone from an older age is coming into the country, they're most likely not going to work, so they're not going to be tax paying people, and then it's maybe a bit of additional burden on the government to be able to support those people. But I think discounting that particular fact, on an emotional or personal level, they do need to understand that people who have migrated here, they are getting, they're trying to migrate their families here for the right reasons as well, and that just helps them really settle down much better. And again, if you look at it, I've had my mom or my wife's mom visiting quite often once they retired from their jobs. And if they were not around, it would have been very difficult for me to raise two kids at home. Yeah. Plus, having them really helps us to pass on some of the cultural things to our kids as well. Otherwise,
Yes, yes,
um,
key thing,
yeah,
right?
otherwise they just become very local. So having
Oh,
grandparents,
Aussie.
having grandparents in and around really helps them to be able to get not all of it, but a part of our culture still imbibed in them.
Yeah, great. Thank you. With these parent visas, I just felt that they've created new visa and that a contributory parent visas and all that. Other than that, for the migrants, they should design a visa which is like straightforward for the parents. They can live here. They don't want We don't want our parents to work. So yes, they can stay here. They can, live the rest of their life with us. We don't want their permanent residency or anything as far as they are with us,
Yeah,
right? So that should something should be out. But yes, we are trying to get a petition out for
that's
that
great.
sort of thing, so for the parents. So hopefully, if it's out, I'll send it to you. Please sign that,
Absolutely.
so all the parents will get benefit out of that. So thank you very much, Deepak, for your valuable time and valuable advices to our viewers. It's helpful, and especially what business you are in. We hope that you skyrocket your businesses and your wealth and you make people wealthy in future, and please serving the community as much as you can. So if we appreciate your effort allocating 1 hour of your time today, and cannot thank you enough for
Thank you.
this
Thanks for
this
inviting me. I
wonderful.
really enjoyed the conversation and happy to help anyone else out there as well. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much.